Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
You wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3, released in 2024, written and directed by Damien Leone. Art the Clown is set to unleash chaos on the unsuspecting residents of Miles County as they peacefully drift off to sleep on Christmas Eve. Now, I have not watched the first two Terrifiers. I've seen clips here and there, and honestly, I'm someone that enjoys slashing movies. I don't know why. I do kind of just enjoy just seeing the kills, maybe because of how creative they can get, like the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2, which got me excited to watch this movie. But even that being true, I was very disappointed with this movie once I watched it. So without further ado, let's just get into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. Now, when you go see this movie, you are not going for the plot. I mean, the plot was the worst thing about this movie. Not only was it just barely there, obviously, because the main purpose of this movie was to show gruesome kills and how creative they can get with them. But for the little plot that was there, it was terrible. I mean, it was okay towards the beginning, but the ending itself was some of the worst scenes that I have seen in my life. It made no sense to me. That could be clouded by the fact that I have not watched the first two movies, so I don't know how the plot is supposed to have gotten there. But I don't know. I'm going to watch the first two movies just so I get a clearer mind. Maybe I'll end up ranking this somewhere else when I do so. But for now, I mean, the plot is just stinky. I just do not think it's good. But again, it's not supposed to be because that's not the point of this movie. The second essential aspect is attraction. Now, this I do have to give the movie credit for. As someone that enjoys the kills and seeing how they are performed, it was interesting to see some of those scenes. And there were some scenes that were really, really gruesome. But my favorite part of this movie was 100% Art the Clown. I think that character is really good. I think he's absolutely hilarious. All the scenes that he is in, especially on his own, I love those scenes. Now, the scenes where he's not in, I think are pointless. Maybe that's why I like the character so much, is because he is the one redeeming part of this movie to me. So I have to give it credit for making a character that is so enjoyable to watch. The third essential aspect is theme. This movie doesn't have a theme or message because it doesn't really need one. It's not what it was intended for. It's not supposed to have this big message to come across to all the audience. It's just supposed to show you how people are dying. So I don't think there's a theme or message. Let's move on. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. So I thought the dialogue in this movie was fine. I think probably the most interesting part of dialogue is how you can actually understand what Art the Clown is trying to say, even though he doesn't talk, just because of all the gestures he does and everything. I think that's a very cool aspect of that character that makes it more enjoyable to watch, because you are trying to figure out what he's trying to say. But when it comes to everyone that can talk while they're talking, the conversations felt fine. It wasn't really anything that pulled me out, but there also wasn't anything Oscar worthy. The fifth essential aspect is acting. So I thought the acting in this movie was okay. It was nothing that really pulled me out, but nothing that was obviously Oscar worthy. And I feel like the main point that I want to talk about in acting is David Howard Thornton, who portrayed Art the Clown. And I think he did a great job with what he had to do to make this character really, at this point, iconic. I mean, hey, I got him on my t-shirt now, but I just think that he is really a really good main horror movie character to follow. I just wish that the story that came along with this character was a little better. If these movies had a good plot, it could be something really special. So that obviously bothers me, but the character itself they did such a good job with, so that's why I wanted to talk about his acting in this, that he did a really good job getting the audience to understand what he's saying and being this funny character that he's just ruthless. I love that. I think that's awesome. But overall, everyone else did a okay job at acting. When they needed to seem like they're scared, they did seem scared, and that's all you can really ask for out of a horror movie. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. Now, of course, in cinematography, we're talking about emotion, and boy, does it give the audience some emotion. I mean, I heard that people were throwing up in the theaters, that they had to just leave because it was too bad. And it's true, this movie does do a really good job of making you feel, depending on who you are, making you feel some way about all the gruesome kills in this movie. I mean, there were some scenes that I'm fine with watching those on screen. I had to turn away, I had to cover my mouth. Like, if for all of you that have watched it, the chainsaw scene in the bathroom, that was wowza. That took me for a ride. I was not expecting it. I could have gone my whole life without seeing it. But, I mean, that tells you how much attention to detail they put into these scenes. Sure, it's just a slasher, it's just a movie about killing people and that's it. But, I mean, they go deep in detail in some of those scenes. And sometimes it's too much, but you have to give them credit where it's due. And when it came to actual look of the movie, I thought it was good because, especially at the beginning, it almost felt like a 90s movie, and then it went to looking more modern. And I just loved the scene of being Christmas. I personally, Christmas is my favorite holiday. I love Christmas. So seeing the movie with all the snow and all the Christmas decorations, and it gave me this Christmassy vibe, which helped a lot with, well, the little plot this story had. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So this movie is 2 hours and 5 minutes long. That is way too long. This needs to be like an hour and 40 minutes. I understand that each kill takes so long. Each kill is like 8 to 10 minutes, so obviously that takes up time, and it was all over the movie. So I know why it was so long. I just feel like even if they just stuck to the kills, which is the main point of this movie, and removed some of the useless story plots, that honestly might even make it a little better. But I just personally feel like it was 2 hours and 5 minutes was way too long. I was basically just looking at the time when we were in the movie, just trying to see when this wraps up. But I just feel like an hour and 35, an hour 40 minutes would probably be better, because even though they might shorten the kills a little bit, maybe they could actually make the movie more worth watching. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. Now, this is another thing I have to give the movie credit for. I mean, I loved the soundtrack of this movie. I mean, it was Christmas themed. I just thought all the music playing in the background, in the kills, and in general, the whole movie fit the scenes well, especially for the time of year. So I thought that they did a pretty good job choosing the soundtrack. It definitely improved the movie. It definitely didn't make it worse. The ninth essential aspect is directing. Now, I think the job of the director is to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the director of this movie is Damien Leone, and he previously directed 4 other movies. And they were All Hallows Eve, Frankenstein vs. the Mummy, Terrifier, and Terrifier 2. So I do think he was the perfect choice to direct this movie because he invented the character. He directed the short that Art the Clown originally appeared in, and he rolled with it, made Terrifier 1, made Terrifier 2, and now Terrifier 3. I feel like, obviously, he is the way to go, and he knows how to get what he wants, because he wanted this to be a slasher and just showing gruesome kills and going crazy creative with it. And that's exactly what he made, and he did a good job going for creating what he was going for. So I can't necessarily say that he's a bad director because this movie is bad, because this movie is exactly what he was going for. So he accomplished his job. He did exactly what he wanted. But I just wish he spent a little more time on the plot, not just in this movie, but in all of these movies, coming up with a really good plot to match the character. Because, I mean, I love this character so much. It's just a shame that he has to appear in movies that aren't as enjoyable. And the 10th essential aspect is time. Will this movie stand the test of time? I think it definitely will, and for one specific reason. The same reason the other Terrifier movies are going to stand the test of time. Because it's a whole new level of gruesome. The kills that you see in this, if you tell anyone, hey, what's a film that I could just go see kill people in the worst ways possible? If you don't say Terrifier, any of the Terrifiers, incorrect answer. Because these movies are crazy graphic. They're gruesome, they're creative. I love that stuff. But again, the plot's really taking a big hit on this movie. But yeah, I just feel like it will stand the test of time as one of the most gruesome movies ever to be made. Now, onto the reviews. So Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 74%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it an 88%, and IMDb gave it a 71%. Now personally, I don't agree with any of these. I don't know how I do know how they're so high, because people out there are sickos and think that this is a really good movie just because of the kills. Now me, I obviously do pay attention to the plot. As much as I loved some of the killing scenes, I absolutely hated the scenes that there was no killing. So it really dropped that down for me a lot. So I'm not going anywhere near the 70s or the 80s. I think it belongs in the 30s, 40s maybe. It's getting 30 and 40 just because that 30 and 40% is just from the 30 and 40% of the movie that is kills. But yeah, I just don't know how any of these were so high. I definitely think it belongs way lower. And finally, the rankings. Where will Terrifier 3 rank in its year, decade, and all time? Let's find out starting in 2024. It's going to be 10th, above Borderlands and below Beautiful Wedding. Now, this whole section of movies on my list is just movies I probably wouldn't watch again. There's just not much to them. They have like one or two redeeming aspects. Terrifier is right there with them. I mean, it's above Borderlands because the one thing Borderlands has is the visuals. But absolutely everything else is god-awful. And Terrifier at least has Art the Clown, this amazing character that I like watching. It's just the movie itself isn't good. But whenever that character's on screen, I'm enjoying myself at least a little bit. And the creativity they have with the kills have to also get it some bonus points as knowing how to show these things without crossing the line by too much. But it's below Beautiful Wedding just because the plot is, even though I didn't really enjoy the plot in Beautiful Wedding, I think it's much better than Terrifier 3. And again, to me, plot is one of the most, if not the most important thing in movies. If it doesn't have a good story, it's hard to really judge it as a movie itself. Now, I personally, even though I didn't enjoy watching either, Beautiful Disaster is one of those that's more to a wider audience, that it's not just, oh, here, people that are kill hungry can watch this movie. And even though both don't have really good plots, Beautiful Weddings definitely does make more sense. It's also a continuation from Beautiful Disaster, so both are sequels, and I feel like this one just did it a little better. I don't know. This whole part of my list is a jumbled mess. I could probably switch any of them around and be perfectly fine with it. And in the 2020s, it's going to be 12th, again above Borderlands and again below Beautiful Wedding. So I'm not going to talk about that again. And in all time, it's going to be 45th, above Borderlands again and below Steel. Now, for those of you that are original to my channel, Steel was, I think, my third or fourth review, and it immediately stuck it to the bottom of the list and stayed there for a while. That has obviously since changed, but I can't believe I'm about to say this. I have to talk really good stuff about Steel, because comparing it to Terrifier 3 is a thing. So the plot in Steel, I hated the ending, and a lot of it was cringy. But to be fair, the plot itself was, compared to Terrifier 3, was really good, because it was a superhero story. You follow the main character, you see his origin story, so it's interesting, at least in that way, if you want to know about this character. Now, I would suggest going and reading a comic book about the character, because it would get a lot more accurately and a lot more interesting than Steel, the actual movie. But, I mean, go watch Steel for yourself if you want to find out what I'm talking about, because I just don't really want to spoil the story, but the ending is god-awful in that movie. But so it is also in Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3 has a terrible ending, and the plot is lackluster and not even there. So Steel, unfortunately, Steel is going to be above that, and probably by a wide margin. That's all I have for Terrifier 3. If you guys enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. Go check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. We both do movie reviews. He's actually the one that gave me the idea to do them. His link is going to be in the description. He just reviewed Terrifier 3 as well. He had some different opinions than I had, so that's why we wanted to start reviewing the same movies every week, just so that people that are a fan of both of our channels can see the differences in opinions. And eventually we're also going to make an all-time list together, averaging out where each movie ranks in it, so that for you guys, you can see an overall list by the two of us. But either way, if you guys, I was about to say if you guys enjoyed this review, I already said all that. So how about just, hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.